Your Honor, at the last council meeting, your direction was to go back and look at the alternative sites and deal with the various agencies that we have to deal with to see if there is any movement we can find on finding an alternative site. So we've been working on that. There are a lot of agencies involved, so it takes a while to get us answers back on everything. But at this point, we're cautiously optimistic that we may be able to work out a deal to find another site. We have to wait for some answers back before we can know for sure if that's coming together. We hope in the next 2 weeks that we'll get those answers, and by the middle of May, hopefully have some good news to be able to report to the community and then reach out to the community with that information. Again, I don't have a presentation ready to go into any detail, but I just want to say that we are diligently working on trying to find an alternative site, and again are cautiously optimistic that we might be able to do that.
Great, thank you. Okay, we do have a few speaker sheets. I think all of you have been here, but just in case you haven't, you have 3 minutes. There's a clock that you can see. There's one that I can see. It ticks down. When you get to a minute, it turns yellow and lets you know that you have a minute to wrap things up. We ask that you give your name for the record as you start. We do in the ask, and kind of the rules of the House is that we don't have booing and shouting and applause. That way everyone's comfortable to talk. You don't have to worry about people agreeing or disagreeing. We want everyone to be able to have their say. And I will. Obviously we speak one at a time, but I'll give the second one in line so you're ready to go. So our first speaker will be Roy Sakamoto and then Jane Murphy.
Good evening. My name is Roy Sakamoto, and I represent some of the House residents at the Country Lane Association and also Vista Camarillo. In front of you, hopefully, you should have all these documents. There's a large sheet that contains, that has the drawings of the facility. Now, all of the documentation I'm providing is really extracted from the final supplemental environmental impact report. So, this is all factual. Looking at the first drawing.
You got to pull that mic right up to you. There you go.
Now, looking at the first drawing, the large drawing in front of you, that's the current layout as proposed in the EIR. As you can see in red, there are several large tanks, one being as large as a 100,000-gallon tank, which in my estimate, using a 20 feet high height, it's going to be 20 feet high by 20 feet by 37 feet long. That's just one tank. There's 3 additional tanks, another 100,000 and 2 others 90,000-gallon tanks. So they're fairly large tanks. In addition to that, comments on the side that I've noted, there are approximately 27,000 gallons of chemicals being stored on site. That's about a 30-day supply. And in addition to that, of that, 13,000 gallons is sulfuric acid, which is highly corrosive. Going on to the next page are the original 8 sites that were in the older study. I'd like to raise your attention to Site 2 and also to Site 5 and Site 7. And then going on to the following page is the current, what they're calling the proposed action facility, which is Site 2. And as you can see in that hash mark, that location is right across the street from St. John's Hospital, effectively. And our tract, the Country Lane tract, is just southeast of it, or just bottom to the right a little bit. That L-shaped tract is where we live. And then up in the left corner is the Vista Camarillo housing. So it's fairly close to housing tracts. Now, if you look at the blue lines, those are actually the well lines that tile the wells and feed that desalter plant. So those lines are fairly long. The pipeline's fairly long. In addition to that, if you look at the black line, those are the brine lines. Going to the following page, I propose that the council consider purchasing the old LA workout site that's in that red triangle towards the bottom right. And in addition to that, then acquire some of the smaller portion of land, probably about a 2.5 acre lot. And then effectively, if you look at the pipelines that I'm running, it's effectively even shorter than what is in the other proposal. And this site is close to the brine, it's close to that new well. The other location I'm looking at is Site 7, but I'll skip that because I don't have enough time. Now, going on to the next page is the concerns on Desalter. My biggest concern really has to do with the sulfuric acid, the amount of sulfuric acid that's being stored, and in addition to that, the location of where it's being situated next to the hospital. If for some reason there's a major spill and the hospital has to evacuate for safety purposes, then where do everybody else go for emergency purposes? So that's a big concern that I have. And then, of course, there's the tanks. You know, these tanks are huge, and if there's major spills, I don't know how they're going to address those. And, of course, there's another canopy. On the second page, there's a canopy about 5,000 square feet. In my estimate, at 25 feet long, 25 feet wide, that'll be about 200 feet long. So it's a fairly large canopy. And then I'll skip the rest, but then going on to the last set of documents, you know, I make my case for Site 5, for the modified Site 5, because I think it's more cost-effective for the city to acquire that site. You know, that property's been vacant. The LA Workout site has been vacant for over 10 years now. And I drove by just the other day. The ceiling's in disarray. The walls are all scratched out. It looks like the fence is now leaning over into the farmland. So it's in fairly bad shape. So I think the city could get a pretty good deal on it. But they've already done the study on Site 5. I'm just talking about acquiring a smaller portion of it. So I think, you know, there's not going to be a whole lot of additional studies being required other than acquiring that property. And again, it's adjacent to that. Although that property, that farmland is in county property, it's adjacent to city property. So that's about all I have for now. I'll just address the rest of it is in this documentation, so I'll keep my time short. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. You've done a lot of work here, and we will look at it. So it was, our next speaker is Jane Murphy and then Phil Hamilton.
Hi, I hope, can you hear me? Okay. I couldn't hear.
Sorry, got to get that mic right up there.
Hi, Jane Murphy. I live in Vista Camarillo, 2713 Antonio, and I am dumbfounded by this. High density, tons of people, hundreds of people, thousands of people in this vicinity. A lot of people, children, babies, moms and dads out walking their kids. I don't know. The high density just amazes me. The sulfuric acid terrifies me. You know, huge containers, dramatic increase in trucks, traffic. There's got to be a better location. Got to be. There is so much land in Camarillo that this is just a preposterous site. Just absolutely, you have to be mentally retarded to pick this area. I mean, we are looking at a $50 million debacle as far as I'm concerned. And, you know, this is a chemical cocktail right in an orchard right across from Vista Camarillo. Hundreds of Camarillo residents and beyond us, more people. This is just not a good site. This has to be looked at again and has to be reinvestigated. Thank you.
Thank you. And Phil Hamilton, and actually that is the only speaker sheet I have for the Desalter.
I don't really have a lot to say tonight. I just wanted to say that you can see that the Vista Camarillo people were a little late coming on board, so they're voicing some of the same concerns that Country Lane voiced earlier. But so all I wanted to say tonight was I just want to say thanks to the council and the staff for kind of tapping on the brakes and apparently getting on a different track really, really quickly. Really responsive, and we really appreciate the efforts. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Okay, I have two nonverbal comment cards that I will pass down so that the council can read them. And we appreciate you all coming on this. And as Mr. Fox said, you'll be hearing